Welcome to this EPD Tech Talk. I am Charlene Yauk, the Associate Director of the Center for Quick Response Manufacturing, and I'm going to talk to you about what quick response manufacturing is and why it's important. A little background about myself. In addition to working for the Center for Quick Response Manufacturing, I'm a professor of practice in the Industrial and Systems Engineering Department. One of the courses I regularly teach is the capstone course for the online master's degree in manufacturing systems engineering. This course is called Design and Analysis of Manufacturing Systems. The Center for Quick Response Manufacturing was founded by Professor Rajan Suri in 1993 at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So the center has been working with a wide variety of manufacturing companies for over 25 years. You can see on the screen some of the logos of the many companies that the center has worked with. The goal of the center is to partner with industry to develop ways in which lead time reduction can be achieved in all aspects of manufacturing. This includes product design, manufacturing processes, and office processes that are needed to serve customers. The center has worked with a wide range of companies, over 300 throughout its time, and it includes activities such as workshops for training, educational seminars, and student projects with industry. So what is quick response manufacturing, or QRM for short? It is a strategy applied in manufacturing firms aiming at reducing the lead time of processes in all aspects of its operations. So thinking about it from an external perspective, it's responding to customers' needs and requests, that you're able to rapidly design products and manufacture them, and those products are customized to those needs that the customer has. So you can fine-tune the features and options and configuration, or completely engineer to order a product to satisfy that customer's needs. From an internal perspective, QRM can be used to reduce lead times for all kinds of tasks and processes that are done. This could include internal processes like quality improvement or hiring practices of new employees. To make QRM work, we have to recognize that it's time to come up with a new way to think about manufacturing. Manufacturers have operated in a common fashion for over 100 years. There's a traditional mindset in play where we make decisions and try to improve performance based on cost-based thinking. And so for QRM to work successfully, what we have to do is to change the way we think about decisions within manufacturing. Rather than using our traditional cost-based mindset, we have to convert that into a time-based mindset, one where we use time as the primary metric, and we make our decisions based on whether or not it's going to decrease the lead time of a particular process. To clarify what I mean by cost-based versus time-based thinking, let's look at the flow of a job through a typical manufacturing company. The job comes in to order entry and gets processed in the office before it gets released to production. The chart that you see here shows white space and gray space. In QRM, we refer to the white space as all of the waiting time before the job actually gets worked on. And so the order entry area takes 5 days to get the job through, but only 3 hours of that is spent actually working on the job. So the gray space is the touch time where the job is getting something done to it. And in the traditional cost-based world, where we've traditionally looked at making changes within manufacturing, we've always been focused on the gray space. So if you go back to the early 1900s, when industrial engineering was first coming about, the emphasis was on finding one best way to do the job. It was on trying to make that gray space more productive and more efficient. And there was largely no attention paid to the white space or the delay time in between. In quick response manufacturing, we take more of a system-wide view. We're looking at the entire elapsed time through the entire process flow, and the QRM is trying to emphasize that white space and eliminate that delay time in between operations. QRM is particularly effective at companies that are doing a wide variety of products. So if you're in a high mix, low volume type of manufacturing company, then QRM makes a lot of sense for your type of work environment. It also makes sense for companies that are doing customizations of products or even engineer to order types of products. For these types of manufacturing firms, the amount of improvement possible with QRM is large. You can get 50%, 75%, or even some companies more than 90% reduction in their lead times. And the reason this is possible is because that large amount of white space or delay time in between activities and tasks being done on the job or the production itself. Let me give you a couple of examples of companies that have found success with QRM. The first one is a production application. This is for a company called National Oilwell Varco. They make products that go onto oil and gas drilling rigs. And this example is for some aftermarket parts that they produced. In their traditional way of producing them, it took them 75 days. And after they applied QRM and implemented a manufacturing cell, they were able to produce these same parts in just 4 days, which is about a 95% reduction. They were focused on time and working on reducing that amount of manufacturing lead time. But after the fact, they took a look at the product cost and they discovered that these same parts now were able to be produced at a cost that was more than 30% less than what it had been previously. So the time-based thinking enabled them to get a reduction in part cost as well. The second example comes from a company called TCI in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This company is making products for the electrical power industry, and they were applying QRM broadly in both the shop floor and the office. This particular example comes from the office area, and for a product family referred to as KLR line reactors, they were able to take the amount of time the job spent in the office from over a week to less than 1 day. So you can see that tremendous possibilities exist for large reductions in the amount of lead time of producing things in both the office and in the shop floor. But why is lead time so important? Why does it make such a difference in how the company operates and performs? At numerous QRM workshops over the years, we have asked attendees to help us understand what kinds of waste exist in their organization that could be eliminated if they were able to reduce their lead times. So we asked them to think about if they walk into work tomorrow and their lead times were suddenly 90% less than what they are today, what kinds of tasks and activities and wastes would the organization be able to get rid of? And this is the list that they've provided us with, that these answers frequently come up during these workshops. First of all, hot jobs would go away. It's common for companies to process hot jobs, sometimes when customers need something fast, or sometimes if there's a disruption in the system and you need to catch up from a delay caused by that disruption. And so hot jobs will go away if you're able to produce all jobs within your system in a rapid fashion. Another thing that goes away is the production meetings and planning efforts that take place, that the schedule is a dynamic system that's constantly changing and being updated. And so it's time spent by people in planning, scheduling, purchasing, sales, and so forth, of changing the schedule, modifying the schedule, updating priorities, that kind of activity goes away. Overtime costs will go away or at least be significantly reduced. Overtime is often used when companies are trying to catch up or to process hot jobs. If you're able to produce all of your jobs rapidly, much of the overtime can be eliminated. Work in process and finished goods inventory gets greatly reduced. You don't have to have as much stuff in process at one time when you're able to reduce how long it takes to get jobs through the system. It also greatly reduces the risk of obsolescence. If product design changes are made, you're not going to have as much inventory impacted by that design change. And finally, the sales of your company are greatly impacted. if you've got long lead times, you're more likely to have customers that cancel orders or decide to place orders with your competition because they don't want to wait a long time to get their products. So fast production lead times will allow you to capture more orders and to get more revenue for your firm. You also can save some time on the salespeople managing the customer experience, particularly if you've experiencing delays or trying to expedite their orders. And ultimately, the system becomes much easier to manage if you implement QRM principles. So what all this leads to is a reduction in overhead costs. Most of these activities and effort are spent by folks who are in the overhead category of cost expenditures. And so overhead will decrease by about 20 to 30%. You'll get more productivity from people being able to work on getting jobs out rather than redoing stuff and replanning and reprioritizing and shutting things down for hot jobs to get through. And you'll ultimately have higher sales because you're going to capture more orders than you would have otherwise. So the business performance aspects of QRM are impressive. To understand QRM further, we'll break it down into 4 key principles or components. And so we've got the power of time, organizational structure, system dynamics, and enterprise-wide strategy. These 4 will be described a little bit further. To understand why time has such a powerful impact on business results, let's first take a look at how overhead is often handled within manufacturing companies. Traditional accounting systems will apply overhead, oftentimes based on direct labor or possibly machine hours. And because of that, those products that have a higher annual volume are going to get more of the overhead allocation. And so we typically will focus on trying to reduce costs for those items that have more volume. Instead, though, most of the actual overhead occurs in the areas where you've got low volume. So the folks in the office are doing a lot of processing and work associated with the low volume products. And because of that, you've got a huge opportunity for cost reduction if you can reduce the overhead that occurs in the office and apply that across all of the parts that you're working with. So the opportunity is about 40 to 50% of your cost is being spent on the overhead for these lower volume items. If we look at the 4 categories of costs, material, labor, overhead, and sales and administrative costs, these are categories that accountants typically use to classify costs within a manufacturing firm. QRM has the potential to impact all 4 of these categories. And so you can apply QRM to the supply chain within your firm. You can get higher productivity from labor. You can get reduced overhead costs, as already mentioned. And you can get reductions in the sales and administrative category. So all of these will lead to lower costs for your organization. There's also the potential for higher revenues due to more sales, and you end up with increased profits for the business. So time can end up producing better business results than the traditional cost-based focus. To achieve these results, you need to start with changing the organizational structure. Instead of a functional organization where activities and processes are grouped together by similar type, you instead put dissimilar processes together into a cell. A QRM cell can have a variety of routings through it. So this might be the look of a cell where you might have a horizontal mill, a vertical mill, VTL is short for vertical turret lathe, deburring, and a drill press. So you locate these pieces of equipment close together and you allow jobs to flow through these machines by a team that owns the cell and the operations within the cell. So in a QRM cell, there's an emphasis on more flexibility. So you can have a variety of flows through the cell. The routings do not have to be the same. The flow pattern can be any shape. It can be U-shaped or straight line. And you can have different processing times. They don't have to be balanced for it to be a QRM cell. Although the example shown here represents manufacturing processes, QRM cells can also be created within the office and have the same kind of impact of greatly increasing the flow and greatly decreasing the amount of time that it takes to get a job processed. After the organizational structure has been changed, it's important to have an understanding of system dynamics and how system dynamics impacts how long it takes jobs to get through the system or orders to get processed. So the chart you see here gives an example of how we would use system dynamics to understand lead time improvements. It shows two curves. One, the top curve represents a scenario in which the manufacturing system has a high amount of variability. The lower curve shows the system with a lower amount of variability. So what we mean by variability is any kind of delay or disruption to the system. It could be things like absenteeism, machine breakdowns, quality problems, or it could be that you're responding to customer requests for changes to the product. And so variability can be for both dysfunctional reasons because of problems in the system or for strategic reasons to meet customers' varied expectations. But despite the underlying cause of the variability, you can see that it has an impact on lead time. And so in the high variability curve, if you were to have a utilization level of your resources of 90%, on the high variability scenario, you have a lot longer lead time than you do on the low variability scenario. So there's an impact on lead time from both variability and from resource utilization. And so QRM takes these factors into consideration in deciding what are some good policies to use when planning and operating the manufacturing system. Finally, QRM is an enterprise-wide strategy. It's something that should be applied across the entire manufacturing organization. It's not just something that applies to manufacturing processes and shop floor activities. And so many people that have attended QRM workshops have said that they like the fact that it applies across the entire company. It includes many functions within the organization, including supply chain, office and order processing, shop floor control, material planning, and so forth. So here's one more example of a company that has benefited greatly from application of QRM principles. Renew Air is a company that makes energy recovery ventilators. They're located near Madison, Wisconsin, and they provide a huge amount of product variety to their customers. They've got over 50,000 options on their commercial side. When they recently calculated the number of possible configurations or combinations of those options, they ended up with a number of like 3.4 million possible configurations. And so they pride themselves on providing a lot of choices and being able to deliver and rapidly respond to customer requests. So when they first began pursuing quick response manufacturing, they applied it throughout both the production and shop floor areas. And this summarizes some of the results that they achieved in the first 5 years. They were able to reduce lead times across many processes by 60 to 90%. Their revenue increased 214%, their market share grew by 130%, and during that time they only increased employees by 88%. So almost tripled their revenue with just an 88% increase in employment. And so QRM has been very powerful at providing business results to Renew Air and other companies like them. Now finally, we'll talk about how QRM helps your company to achieve the next level of business performance. First of all, let's compare how we can think about variability as two different types. There's dysfunctional variability. These are the things that can go wrong in your system. Things like rework, processing hot jobs, machine breakdowns, using the wrong specs, having quality problems, and so forth. This is the kind of variability that all manufacturing firms should be striving to get rid of. There's also strategic variability, though, and this is the variability that comes from trying to best meet your customers' needs. So it's providing them with product options or custom engineering the product or dealing with fluctuations in demand. This kind of variability is strategic in that you want to be able to manage this variability successfully. So in choosing a strategy to use to improve manufacturing system performance, Two of the popular ways of improving manufacturing are Lean and Six Sigma. Both of these systems have been around for several decades, and they both strive to remove as much variability as possible. So Lean and Six Sigma are systems that work towards variability reduction and elimination. And that works well if you're talking about the dysfunctional variability, but if your company is striving to provide that strategic variability to customers, Lean and Six Sigma are not the best fit. QRM, on the other hand, wants to eliminate and reduce the dysfunctional variability while exploiting the strategic variability. So Lean and Six Sigma tools are a great opportunity for you to remove dysfunctional variability. If you're doing things like quality improvement or setup reduction or process improvement that aims at dysfunctional types of variability, then Lean and Six Sigma tools are great to use. On the other hand, if you want to exploit strategic variability and to help meet a broader range of customer needs, if you want to transition into making more make-to-order or assemble-to-order type production, if you want to move more towards a mass customization strategy, then Quick Response Manufacturing can help you to accomplish what you need to provide customers with all of the options that you want, and to do so in a rapid fashion and meet their response for speed as well. If you want to learn more about Quick Response Manufacturing, there are many resources available to you. The one that I would recommend as a starting point if you're new to Quick Response Manufacturing is the book It's About Time. This book was published in 2010 and provides a comprehensive overview of what Quick Response Manufacturing is, including complete coverage of the 4 components that I introduced to you today. Additional information can be found at the QRM Center website. We offer a wide variety of workshops and seminars throughout the year. And if you decide that QRM is a good fit for your career path, we offer a certificate in partnership with EPD. This provides a way for you to document and show off your credential and your knowledge in this area. We also have some free publications available to you. And we regularly do projects with companies. So if you're interested in a student project, please contact me to try to set that up in the future. Thank you very much for joining me for this Tech Talk sponsored by the UW-Madison Engineering Professional Development Department. If you want to learn more about EPD, you can visit the EPD website at epd.wisc.edu.